We'll begin with the Kabbalat Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem. In the Sim Shalom, it's on page 13. In the transliteration, it's on page 9. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Dile Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We turn to page 14 in the Sim Shalom and page 11 in the transliteration for Yedid Nefesh. I recognize that I'm bringing new tunes to this community, so if you just want to sing Laila Lai to those tunes, great. Hopefully over time we'll have a lot of time together and you'll learn my melodies and I'll learn yours and we'll grow together. Page 14 in the Sim Shalom, page 11 in the transliteration. Yedid nefesh av harachaman mishochadach el retzonach yarutz avdach kemo ayam yishtachaveh El mul hadar ye'avlo yedidutach minofetuf vechol ta'am adurna eziv ha'olam nashicholat avatach ana elna fanala beharot lo noam zivach az titchazek v'titrapeh v'haytala shivchat olam v'tikehemu rachamecha v'chusana al ben ahuva Ki ze kol nichsaf liro b'tiferet uzah anai li machma libi v'chushana ve'al titalam Igalena ufros chavivi alai et sukat shelomah ta'irets mikevodah nagila v'nismecha lach Kivaboe v'choneni ki me'olam. Yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, dai 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 dai. Yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai. We turn to page 15 in the Sim Shalom and page 12 in the transliteration. Lechu neranena ladonai Naria Litzur Ishenu. All right, that's not the one you know, is that? Which Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Ladonai, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Ladonai. Naria, Naria, Litzuri Shenu, Nikadma Fana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Litzuri Shenu, Bizmira Naria Lo. Lechuneranena, 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 Ladonai, Lechuneranena, 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 Ladonai. We are 5 lines from the bottom on the transliteration, or 4 lines from the bottom in the Sim Shalom, where the box is on the bottom of the page. Arba'im Shana Akud Bedor Va'omar Am Toe Levavhem Vehem Lo Yadu Derachai Asher Nishbati Be'api Imivaun El Menuchati. Next page. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz Shiru Ladonai Bachru Shemo Basru Meyom Leyom Yeshuato Sapru Vagoyim Kivodo Bechol Ha'amim Niflaotav Ki Gadol Adonai Umelal Meyod Norahu Al Kol Elohim Ay Ki Kol Elohim Ha'amim Elohim Va'adonai Shamayim Asa Hod V'Hadar Lefanav Oz V'Tiferet B'Mikdasho Havul Adonai Mishpechot Amim Havul Adonai Kavod Va'oz Havul Adonai Kevod Shemo Se'u Mincha Uva'u Lechatrotav Ay Ishtachavu L'Adonai Behadrat Kodesh Chilu Mipanav Kol Haaretz Imru v'goyim Adonai malach Avti kontevel Baal timot Yadin amim b'meisharim Yanai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai nai nai. Let's do it again. Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai nai Yai nai nai Ai nai 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 Yai nai 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 I nai I nai nai I nai 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 yeah I nai 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 I nai nai I nai nai I nai 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 I nai 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 yeah I nai nai yeah I nai 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 yeah I nai 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 yeah nai 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 nai. We're on page 24 in the transliteration and page 20, page 23 in the transliteration. No, we're not. It's not in the transliteration, so I apologize for that. But we're on Ana B'Koach, which in the Sim Shalom is on page 20. Ana B'Koach Gedulat Yemincha Yemincha Tatir Tzerura Kabel Rinat Amcha Sagvenu Tarenu Nora Anna B'Koach Gedulat Yemincha Yemincha Tatir Tzerura Kabel Rinat Amcha Sagvenu Tarenu Nora Anna B'Koach Gedulat Yemincha Tatir Tzerura Kabel Rinat Amecha Sagvenu Tarenu Nora. Sing with me. Yai nai 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 nai. Yai nai 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 nai. Yai nai 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 nai. Yai nai nai nai. Now we're on page 21 in the Sim Shalom and page 24 in the transliteration. And we'll do a little different tune than we did last week in the perpetual hope that I will pick a tune that is somewhat recognizable. So, Lecha dodi likrat. Yes, no. Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi dodi lecha dodi likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, ve'rosh mikedem nisucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi dodi lecha dodi likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzi mitoch hafecha, Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha, v'hu yachmol alayich ema. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Itna ari me'afar kumi, Leave shibigdei tifartech almi, al yad ben ishai beitalachmi, kara el nafshi ge'ala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, kiva orech kumi uri, shir daveri, kivod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevoshi velo tikami, ma tishtachachi umatemi, boch yechresu aniei ami, v'nivneta ir al tila. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. V'hayu limshisa shosayich, v'rachaku kol mivalayich, yasis alayich Elohayich, kimsot chatan al kala. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Yaminu smol tifrotzi, V'yet Adonai ta'aritzi, al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila. Please rise. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. On this last paragraph, we turn towards the door as we welcome the Shabbat bride. Bo'i v'shalom ha'ateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzala, toch emunei am segula, bo'i chala. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. We turn to page 26 for the Psalm 92, so 26 in the transliteration, 23 in Sim Shalom for the 92nd Psalm, the Psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor shir le'yom HaShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulezamer le'shimcha elyon, ulezamer le'shimcha elyon. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. We are 4 lines from the bottom on page, sorry, just give me a second. Page 23, 4 lines, 4 lines from the bottom of page 23 in the Sim Shalom. And on page 27, we are 2, 4, 6, 8 lines from the bottom on page 27 in the transliteration. Tzaddik ata amar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizkeh shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenun beseva deshenim verananim yihu lehagid ki ashar Adonai Tzuri velo avlatabo. We skipped a piece. So I'm going to ask anybody who would like to volunteer, but I'm going to tell Karen and Judy and anybody else who would like to come up to light Shabbat candles for us. Anybody else that wants to come up, but I'm calling on 2 ringers. Oh, Judy's going to ditch you. You look so happy about it. It's okay. It's what? It's your jobs every week? All right, so next time I'll call on Leo. Okay. Next time I'll call on Leo. I got it. I didn't call random names and hoping they were in the congregation. I picked names I knew. Rebecca and Sarah. No, sorry, go ahead. Oh, there you go.
With me.
I took a shot. Please rise if you're able to for the candlelight.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel shachar.
Thank you. All right. You may be seated. Well, thank you. No. Thank you. I will call on different people next time. I promise. No. Good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. That was really enthusiastic. Thank you. The one person. I just watched a movie. Has nothing to do with what I'm going to be talking about, but I just watched a movie based on a book. The movie and book are called This Is Where I Leave You, which is about a family sitting Shiva. It's got a bunch of actors in it, none of whom are Jewish, sitting Shiva. It's Jason Bateman and Jane Fonda, Tina Fey, and the one Jewish actor in the movie is a guy named Ben Schwartz. You may know from Parks and Rec or from other stuff, But he tries to be a cheerleader as a rabbi, and he's like, "Good Shabbos, everybody!" And then when they don't respond, he tries to get them back. So, Shabbat Shalom. There you go. All right. Now I'm glad I don't have to, make sure test anybody for a pulse. That's good. There's a place in the world, and close your eyes if you want, and I want you to picture this place for yourself. A place where everything is okay, where all your troubles dull a little bit, your ability to be present in the moment heightens a little bit. Maybe it's got open spaces of grass. Maybe it's got water. Could have a lot of different things. I'll share with you what mine is. It's a place where you go and the only thing you hear are birds, sometimes a mosquito or two or a bug, fly. It's a place where you don't see another person when you're there unless you came with them. For me, that place is in the middle of nowhere, in a little, when I say a little town, don't think you know what I mean, because it's such a small town called Bristol, New York. It doesn't even have a stoplight. The closest town to it is either Naples, New York, or Canandaigua. Those are the big cities around it, and the small town called Honeoye. And 40 years ago, almost to the day, my parents bought a cottage out there. It's acres and acres of land and not another person to be seen. And no matter what I was going through, no matter what piece of mail from school my parents had just gotten, or a report card, or a test that I had done so well on or not, once the tires hit the gravel of the roads, I didn't know it at the time because I was a kid, but my heart rate lowered. My anxiety was lessened. And anything I had to do just felt a little less emergent, a little more possible, a little more accessible, because I was in that place. And that was and is my sanctuary. When we think of the word sanctuary, we picture this. But a sanctuary is a place where we feel safe, a place that I just described, where sometimes we feel, if you want the theology of a presence of God or the presence of a non-judgmental being protecting us. I actually just spoke to my parents on my way to work, and they were there. They were getting ready to light Shabbat candles, looking out into the middle of nothing. And I'll be honest, I was homesick. I mean, it hasn't been my home in a long, long time, but it was I was sanctuary sick, I guess you'd say. If there's one thing we've learned over the last 3 years, and we've learned a lot, we've learned that a sanctuary isn't just a place. That we can have that sense of sanctuary in people, in moments, in community free of walls and of geography. In our Torah portion this week, the idea of sanctuary comes into being. God is instructing Moses what to do and how to go into the land and all of these different rules. And this idea comes up of, if somebody kills someone else, even if it's an accident, even if it's unintentional, even if that person who killed someone can't be prosecuted, the famous example that they give, famous, it's not Brad Pitt famous, it's famous if you studied it, but the example they give is if somebody's chopping wood and the top of the axe flies off and hits somebody and kills them. It was an accident, right? But the Torah describes what happens next. What happens next is that the family of the person killed wants revenge. They want, as the Torah has mandated, a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and a life for a life. And the Torah doesn't judge it. It doesn't say they're not allowed. It actually sets up something called sanctuary cities, where the person who has accidentally killed somebody can go and be safe, and where the person who wants revenge cannot take their vengeance. Now, the question is, why does the Torah allow for such injustice? To allow for us to, for human beings to give in to their base instincts. Why is there room for that? And we can say, well, it was a different time and they were primitive and they had an eye for an eye and all those things. I think something different. I think that God created a place above and beyond the law, that there are some things that just happen, that be they accident or whatever, that there is an instinct. The Torah recognizes the human nature and our desire for vengeance. It doesn't judge it. It doesn't say that the person who wants vengeance is bad. You know, for those of you who may be a little older than me, you may not have done this, but for parents of my generation, there was a 4-letter word that was very, very taboo. It wasn't the 4-letter words you're thinking of. It wasn't the 4-letter words that teenagers love to spew and some of their parents. The 4-letter word that became taboo for people of my generation was hate. I literally heard a friend say this. I hate broccoli, their child said. And the parent said, no, you hate Nazis. You just don't like broccoli. I didn't know at the time what bothered me so much about that interaction that I witnessed with a good friend and their child. But what I realized was what has become known as toxic positivity. We live in a time and a place where there are some emotions that are okay and some that aren't. That we've become arbiters and judge and jury of what we're allowed to feel and what we're not, and what our children are allowed to feel and what they're not. I'm going to go really old school and go back to when you took the SATs. Do you remember your analogies when you were taking SATs? Do you remember those? Blank is to blank as blank is to blank something else, right? Leo, you remember, right? Right. So I'll give you one, a real life one, okay? Social media is to real life as blank is to photography. The answer is airbrushing or photoshopping. We live in a time and a place where we see people in their own sanctuary, on their vacations. They're sitting and it's bucolic, it's gorgeous. Their families arm in arm at Disneyland or in Hawaii or in Europe or wherever they're, Bora Bora, they've taken their 7-year-old child on a first-class trip to Bora Bora because God knows what 7-year-olds need. And we see that picture. But what we don't see is the arguments that led up to that picture. The car ride driving to Disneyland where the kids were fighting in the back seat, or we're getting somebody to smile and wrangle them for the picture. And so all we see is this positivity, this happiness of everybody else, and we compare their outsides to our insides. And it hurts. And we long for that place of sanctuary. The place where we realize that we don't have to always be positive, that we can be who we are and not be judged for it. Emotions aren't good or bad. They're emotions. There's a great insight that the Talmud has that was echoed thousands of years later by Carl Jung, the psychologist. The Talmud says the greater the tzaddik, the greater the righteous, the more righteous a person is, the greater their Yetzer Hara, their evil inclination. And in Jung's words, he said, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. But that's only the beginning of the insight that they share. Because according to Jung and according to the Talmud, we have to embrace our darkness. We have to allow it to exist. The rabbis say that in all of creation, right? You may know this. Every time God creates something, let there be light, and God saw that it was light, and it was tov, right? It was good. Except in all of creation, there's one moment that's different, that says tov ma'od, which means what? Very good. And that's when humanity is created. And the thing that we have that other species don't have is their Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. And so according to the rabbis of the Midrash, the evil inclination is tov ma'od. That our darkness is good, because the rabbis say without our evil inclination, children would never be born. We would never amass wealth. Without a libido, without a desire to do things, without a drive, we wouldn't accomplish things. So whether you want to call it a dark side and a light side, an evil inclination, a good inclination, emotions are emotions. They're just what they are. And sanctuary, finding sanctuary is finding a place where we can be all of those things, where we can be our good selves, where we can be our real selves, where we can be imperfect, where we can come face to face with the divine or our beloved or whomever and be embraced, not for what we are, but also for what we aren't. To love our darkness and our light together. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do these things. So our sanctuary, because the truth is all we want is to be able to love who we are, how we are, and be loved for what we are. That's true sanctuary. So it's my hope and my prayer for everyone in here and everyone listening at home that we find sanctuary, that we find a place and a person and a self where we can be whatever we are, whomever we are, without judgment. The moments when we fall short, the moments when we give in to the shadow or the anger or whatever you hate, whatever you want to say, instead of being angry at ourselves, be curious, right? It's become very fashionable, Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental. But I'll say this also. Every time we berate ourselves, every time we beat ourselves up for being something else, for falling short, every time we judge ourselves for falling short, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to learn from it. And if we can just be curious instead, then we'll find true sanctuary. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue our service with the formal call to prayer with the Baruch Hu on page 28 in the Sim Shalom and page 33 in the transliteration. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. You may be seated, Baruch. Umavir yom umevi laila, umabdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai, hamari v'aravim. We're on page 34 in the transliteration and 29 in Sim Shalom. We're a few lines from the bottom where the box can be found. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, uvahem nehege yomam v'layla, v'avatecha al tasir mimenu leolamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. We're all together on page 30 in the Sim Shalom and 35 of the transliteration for the Shema at the top of the page. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Adonai alevavecha Vishinantam levanecha vidibarta bam bishivtecha beveitecha uvelechtecha avaderech uvshochbecha uvekumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. We're in the third paragraph of the Shema. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem v'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem l'dorotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf petil techelet v'haya lachem letzitzit Uri'item oto, uzichartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, v'asitem otam, v'lo taturu, acharei levavchem, v'acharei enechem, asher atem zonim achareihem, leman tizkiru, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kedoshim le'elohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Liot Lachem Le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem Emet. We're on the middle of page 32 in the Sim Shalom and the middle of page 40 in the transliteration at the box. Umalchuto baratzon kibul aleihem Moshe v'nei Yisrael achanu shira v'simcha rabba v'amru chulam mi chamocha be'elim Adonai mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh norati lot osef eleh Malchucha ra'u vanecha bokean lifnei Moshe ze Elianu v'yamru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed v'ne'emar kifad Adonai et Yaakov v'golo me'ad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai gal Yisrael. We're on page 33 in the Sim Shalom and page 41 in the transliteration. Towards the bottom of the page. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu l'chaim l'shalom eta v'yad olam ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha Baruch ata Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Please rise if you're able on page 34 or in the Sim Shalom or page 42. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם I ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ויאמר דברך ליותי ואבניך מלכותי בחייכון ומחכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן יהי שמי רב מבורך ועולם ומעולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקדושה בריחו לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא v'imru amen. The silent Amidah begins on page 35, A or B in the Sim Shalom through page 38. And in the transliteration, it begins on page 44 through page 54. Oseh shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'yimeru. Amen. You may be seated. We continue with the Kaddish Shalom on page 58 in the transliteration and 48 in the Sim Shalom. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah. Be'yamad yivarech l'tev emlich malchutei b'chayechon v'meichon v'chayechol beit Yisrael b'galav yizman kari v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach. Le'olam le'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yidvar v'yidvar v'naseh v'yidvar 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 shmei dekudesha. Leila Mikover Chata V'Shirata Tishbechata V'Nechemata Davimam Ve'ama V'imeru. Amen. Titkabel Tzlatan V'Atan D'Chol Beit Yisrael Kadam Avon V'Yishmaya V'imeru. Amen. Yehi Shalom Rabbi Mishemaya V'Chaim Aleinu Ve'El Kol Yisrael V'imeru. Oseh Shalom B'Imromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'El Kol Yisrael Ve'El Kol Yoshei Tevel V'imeru. Amen. Now that you're comfortable, please rise as we turn to page 51 in the Sim Shalom and page 65 in the transliteration for Aleinu. Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol la'teit gedula leotzer breshit shelo asanu kagoye haratzot velo samanu kimishbechot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem V'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz umoshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al ushchinatu zo Ushchinatu zo bigov he me'eromi'im hu Eloheinu enod emet malkeinu efes ulato kakatuv betorato v'yadat hayom v'hashevota elevavecha Ki Adonai hua Elo bom 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 pashamayim mima'al ve'al haaretz mitachat ein od V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech Al kol haaretz vayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad. You may be seated. In our community this week, we commemorate the yard sites of Rose Altschul and Tzvi Bar Chaim, of Gertrude Budnitsky and Grace Calderon, of Bernice Feldstein and Gloria Fleischer, of Gregory Fry and Anna Friedenberg, of Harvey Geller and Goldie Ida Gordon, of Neil Handler and J. David Hoffman, of Ruth Kaplan and Harry Kaz, of David Kristen and Howard Lassman, of Fritzie Lerner and Janice Lipton, of Valley Lowenberg and Juanita Erlene Marie Wesson, of Ellis Siegelman and Ann Serrata, of Gerald Jerry Serrata and Julian Snyder, of Edward H. Solomon and Marvin Spellman, and of Arthur Taus. May all of their memories be a blessing. All those who have a need, a desire, and would like to rise for the Mourner's Kaddish, please do so on page 52 in the Sim Shalom and 68 in the transliteration. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach leolam ulmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'almav imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. You may be seated. Just a couple of announcements. Sunday at 12 noon, not 12 a.m., the lunch with the Social Justice Committee at the 1919 Cafe at Huntington Gardens. For all the other announcements, they're all up there, and you can read them. Any other announcements that we're missing? No, next Friday night is a national holiday because Cantor Ruth is coming back. And that's on Friday, July 21st. That'll be our first Shabbat together. If there are no other announcements, we'll conclude our service with Adon Olam. Why not? Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa B'Chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Imloch Nora Vehu haya, vehu ove, vehu yeh, betifara, tifara, vehu echad, ve'echeni leham shilo, leachbira, veli reshid, veli tachlit, velo haoz, vehamisra, velo haoz, vehamisra, vehu eli, v'chaygo eli, v'tzur chavli, ve'etzara, vehu nisi, umanosli, menad kosi, ve'yomekra, menad kosi, ve'yomekra, Be'yado afkid ruchi ve'etishan ve'aira ve'im ruchi geviati Adonai li ve'lo ira Adonai li ve'lo ira. We're going to go over this room and we're going to make Kiddush and Hamoitzi. ויחלו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבה מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'ava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikrai kodesh, zecher li'etziat Mitzrayim, Banu v'acharta, help me, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh hashabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav al metzilat yadayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Please, manja.